Happy Father's Day to all of you guys. I'm so excited to be a part of a very special group of people by being a father, and also very excited because the Lord has been so good to me that I do have my dad with me, and I get to see him, I get to fellowship with him, I get to learn from him, and I'm just blessed. And obviously, I'm privileged to be the father of three for the last 24 years. Now, when it comes to Father's Day, just thinking, processing, going through life, obviously transitioning in so many areas personally, as a family, just because of the stage where we are in marriage, in life, in parenting. I just cannot stop thinking of the word functionality, the responsibility. I even take the concept of fatherhood to the word stewardship. And I'm thinking from the beginning of creation. I'm thinking of the book of Genesis. I'm thinking of the function that was given, the assignment that was given to the man and to Adam. And tragically, there was a confusion between function and essence. There was a confusion between the responsibility and who they were, who we are. And this confusion has created a domino effect that in today's culture, again, it just perpetuates this vicious cycle of chaos and craziness. And because of that, I am more than convinced that this is a great opportunity on a day like this to be reminded of the task, of the privilege, and the responsibility, the functionality that we as fathers have. And let me just be very, very open, very straightforward. I think the best thing that we can do as fathers is definitely to work on our marriage. Because again, just kind of that domino effect, trickle effect into marriage and then obviously fatherhood. And I'm saying that because I'm obviously speaking from ideals, far away from sometimes from the real scenario. And as much as the family nucleus is broken and it continues to, go through difficult scenarios, every marriage is fragile, every marriage obviously is vulnerable. Yet we do not begin with our reality, we begin with God's standards. And from the very beginning, it was that relationship, that union between a man and a woman, and then obviously creates that blessing of parenting, and then the legacy, gospel presentation, eventually the birth of Christ through that family nucleus. So again, I'm speaking of ideals. I know also I have to come back into the real. And as much as we enjoy parenting our kids, as much as we enjoy being fathers, and for what I've heard, being grandfathers, that's also very enjoyable. The reality is that it begins with marriage. It begins with the nucleus of loving spouses, loving your spouses each other, and then obviously the purpose of marriage, which is oneness. So again, just the functionality, the responsibility, the privilege, the stewardship of those relationships, which begins obviously in that understanding of marriage. Now, although this is Father's Day and this is not about marriage, but man, that's the foundation. There is no way to walk around, to move around the understanding of this beautiful relationship, marriage. Now, one of the reasons why, and this is just my conviction, obviously you don't have to agree with anything that I say, but I get the privilege, I get the mic, so I get the privilege to speak a little bit. This concept of marriage is extremely important because I see marriage as a down payment towards what is to come. And I'm speaking of the marriage between Jesus and his bride, which is the church. So once again, if you can think of marriage as an expression, I guess crystallization, some sort of a symbolism, some sort of a tangible reality of what is to come, when Jesus returns, that's the reason why I speak of marriage as the foundation for parenting. But now that we are in the middle of, that we are the generation that we get to parent our children, the Bible describes our responsibility, our functionality in the understanding of a stewardship. And we've been navigating the book of Romans, and in Romans, especially beginning in chapter 12 and the following verses or chapters, Paul describes this task, this responsibility, which is founded in essence. So is who we are in Christ that allows us to do what we were created to do. In other words, we got to make sure that we begin our responsibility um, through identity. This is who we are, therefore, this is what we do. Tragically, because we're a very confused generation, we typically reverse the order, and most of the things that, most of the things that had to do with essence, with identity, are based on either what we do, what we have done, what we haven't done, or tragically, it just moves into feelings, who we think or who we feel we are. All of that is nonsense if we reverse the order, because in God's economy, it begins with identity, which in this case, go back to Genesis, created in the image and likeness of God. There's a purpose why we were created. There's a reason why we were created, and it's found on who God is. And unless you know who God is, you will never know who you are. Therefore, you will never know what to do. And again, part of the challenge as we speak today is that we are a generation that we're so confused on the doing, because we are really confused on the being or the essence, on just who we are supposed to be. Anyways, all that to say that this task and responsibility, this doing, is based once again on the specific task of stewardship, managing, overseeing, giving an account of this beautiful task of parenting. And today we're moving into chapter 13, which speaks of government. And by the way, government, man, such a crucial topic for today. That's a topic, that's a reality that is being imposed and forced on us as a generation, because governments definitely play a major role when it comes to the task of government, the responsibility of government. Tragically, our governments are so confused because, once again, we're so confused because we are confused about who God is. And once the image, the essence, the concept, the reality, the person of God is negotiated, confused, compromised, denied, however you want to define this, as long as God is removed from the conversation, everything else is confusion. Therefore, parenting, fatherhood, must begin with bringing clarity of who God is. And right now, because our generation is so confused on what government is, and the responsibility of government and what government does, and our nations are so upside down in so many scenarios, and the situation doesn't look very promising in most scenarios. I think this is a great opportunity to use this craziness, not that we condone it nor agree with what's going on, but without demonizing our governments. I think we could very easily utilize, and I say could, but in reality we're called to, this is chapter 13 of the book of Romans, we're called to really take the reality of our government, the reality of the structure, the reality of authority, because obviously the government has been placed, given authority, and really use it as a vehicle to reintroduce the God who created and who established governments. And obviously when I talk about the creation of government, I'm implying also the means, how government is supposed to operate, and then eventually, which today we'll talk about it, the purpose. Why government? Why do we have all these rules, all these structures? Why countries and nations, we function the way we function? Why we don't function the way other nations function? All of that to say, again, it's just, I hope when we become and we are stewards of such a season like this, that we do not miss it, that we do not waste the opportunity as we see the brokenness and the craziness. And obviously there's a lot of beauty, so don't hear from me just this negativity and this kind of a putting things on the down tone of the reality yet once again, because in most scenarios, when it comes to government, when it comes to society, when it comes to, again, situations, in most cases we don't have control of them. Obviously we are affected by them, so we do not deny the reality of the domino effect that creates the craziness and the brokenness of our culture and society. Yet we are called once again to steward the season and steward also the reintroduction of the essence of God. Now, let me just say this, and I'll let you guys go after this. When it comes to the concept and understanding of stewardship that we as fathers play based on the function, based on the task. I don't know if that's been said and clear on that. I am not speaking of essence, which implies that I am not saying that we are better, that we're more valuable, that we're more um, important than either women or elderly or children or middle age, whatever. I'm speaking of function, just pure function, responsibility, task, um, again, assignment that we've been given, which is a divine, again, commissioning. Um, it's no it's no accident that Paul begins this conversation in chapter 13, which has been carrying from chapter 12, that is in the concept of submission. From the very beginning, this understanding of authority and dominion given from Genesis is in the concept, is in the environment, is in the worldview of submission. Why? Because the understanding of submission, and this is stewardship, this is manhood, this is fatherhood, this is what it means to be a father, is the understanding that all authority, all stewardship which we've been entrusted and given as men and fathers is given for the purpose to display submission. In other words, the stewardship that we have is not simply those have been placed under our care and protection and admonition and nurturing, which again in this concept is family nucleus. But in this case, all of those things that I just described, which are a reality, and hopefully we are those fathers that we are stepping up to the plate. We are those fathers who are providers and nurturers and we care and the things that I described. But those things are simply the means to display the character of God, which is displayed through submission. So my stewardship as a man is presented in the concept of my submission to the ultimate authority. So fatherhood is simply the opportunity in this season of life, because life is short and parenting is short and marriage is short. This is why I talk about marriage as a down payment to what is to come, because there will be no marriage in heaven, which there will be no parenting in heaven. But right now, the moment, the season, the opportunity that we do have is to reintroduce who has ultimate authority, which is the God of the scriptures. So my limited authority as a husband, as a father, is simply the vehicle to demonstrate who has ultimate authority. Now, if we disregard that task, that commissioning, that responsibility, and this is just, man, this is something that just happens. If we disregard it and we are bad stewards, it's the moment that we start acting, behaving, conducting ourselves as if we are the ones with ultimate authority, as if we are it. And there's nothing more detrimental to manhood. There is nothing more detrimental to fatherhood and parenting and marriage. There is nothing more detrimental to human beings than to behave and act and think that you and I have ultimate authority, which means God is out of the picture. I'm the one who calls the shots, and I'm accountable to nobody. Nothing in this life is more detrimental. And again, Genesis demonstrates that. I mean, you go down the line through history, through family, through governments, and we are just, man, we are killing ourselves. This is self-inflicted pain. So I'm saying that because even as you listen or you watch this, if you think that you can just remain kind of a neutral, if you can just remain passive, there's no such a thing as a neutrality or passivity when it comes to manhood and parenthood and fatherhood and marriage. Either we're moving towards exposing, expressing, conveying, crystallizing the ultimate authority of the God who is in control, beginning with my life. He controls my life. Either we're doing that or we're promoting self-centeredness. We're promoting, again, that I am the one who calls the shots and I'm responsible. And I'm telling you, as a man, as a father, as a son, I do not want that responsibility, because this world is extremely broken. Satan is so powerful. He controls and has temporal dominion over as the prince of the air. And I don't want to be the one dealing with the consequences of this brokenness. I love my family so much. I love my wife and my kids so much that I want for God to be responsible of the outcome of my submission to the ultimate authority of the God of the Bible. Love you guys. Have a wonderful Father's Day and enjoy the rest of this beautiful Sunday. God bless.